Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. Zach D Productions here, and I'm here for a list video for you guys. So for this list, I'll be going over a list of 6 bands that I respect, but at the same time, I'm not a fan of. Now, obviously, there's many bands out there. There are countless bands out there that I do have respect for, but I'm just not into them. Obviously, you're not going to like everything, so for this list, I'm just going to narrow it down to 6 bands that I happen to respect, but at the same time, I'm just not a fan of. Well, because maybe some of you are wondering about my thoughts on these particular bands, so yeah. This list is also in no particular order, so let's go ahead and get started. First band I want to mention here is AC/DC. Definitely one of the first bands that come to mind when I think of bands that I'm not a fan of, but at the same time, I do respect. I mean, there's definitely no denying the impact and influence that they've had on rock music. Obviously, there's many bands that I'm a fan of that have been influenced by AC/DC. And yeah, they're undeniably influential in rock music, but not really a fan of their music. And my main issue with AC/DC is the fact that I do find a lot of their music to be rather samey. A lot of their songs do sound the same, and also not crazy about the vocals either, but you know, there's a few songs from AC/DC that I kind of like The Razor's Edge, Back in Black, and Thunderstruck, just to name a few. Not that I return to them a lot, but I think they're decent tracks. But yeah, definitely not a bad band, but personally, just not into them. Same thing with the next band, Kiss, another old school hard rock band that, like with AC/DC, is very influential when it comes to rock and metal. Again, they've influenced a lot of bands that I happen to like. But yeah, their music is not bad, but yeah, Kiss has got to be on this list. Next, we have Greta Van Fleet. Now, it might seem rather surprising that this band is on the list, because I remember a few years ago I ranted on this band, and you know, it really did seem like it was the cool thing to do a few years ago was to hate on Greta Van Fleet just due to the fact that they're basically a Led Zeppelin ripoff or whatever. And I will admit, I was one of the individuals that jumped on that train, basically, that, you know, ranted on Greta Van Fleet for that. But how do I feel about them nowadays? I respect them, obviously, and I don't think that their music is bad, but I'm still not into them. Now, I don't know what their music is like these days, because I have heard things about them having a little bit of change within their sound. I don't know if they still sound like Led Zeppelin. I'm honestly completely unaware, to be honest. I'm not familiar with any of their more recent stuff, but I just know that a few years ago, yeah, they were definitely very Led Zeppelin influenced. But, you know, when it comes to the vocals, the guy's voice, I think he's got a decent enough voice, but still not a fan of Greta Van Fleet, but not bad, I would say. Next, we have Spirit Box. Again, another surprise, maybe, for this list. Dare I say, I think Spirit Box is one of the most overhyped bands of this generation. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Now, obviously, I don't think they're bad, but you know, for a band that only has one album, I do find them to be kind of overrated. Now, I do understand that they've had 1 or 2 EPs before releasing an album, but still. I mean, I've listened to their music. I mean, I've listened to the album that they've released, Eternal Blue, and honestly, I don't see the hype. I really don't. Now, Courtney, I think is her name, the vocalist, she's got a fine voice, but I don't know. I think their music is kind of edgy. But there are a few tracks that I do kind of like from this band, from the Eternal Blue album, such as the title track and Garden something Garden or whatever. I mean, if you've listened to Spirit Box, you know the song I'm talking about. I think that's a decent song as well. But yeah, not a bad band, but I don't see the hype of this band, to be honest. I don't really see the hype for them. But they're not bad, so Spirit Box has to be on the list. Next, we have Avenged Sevenfold. Believe it or not, there was a time where I was a fan of this band for a brief bit, but my fandom of this band only lasted maybe a few months at most. Yeah, this band has just not been doing it for me as far as replay value is concerned. I mean, I do find their music to be kind of samey at times as well. I just think that there needs to be a little more variation in their music. I think that's one of the biggest problems with Avenged Sevenfold's music, is just the lack of variety in their music. Now, they're definitely a good band. I think, you know, they're definitely a good band, but, you know, I've tried getting into them, but at the end of the day, man, I just can't. But again, they're not bad, and I do have respect for them, and I understand that they're a very big band, a very successful band, you know, when it comes to metalcore and modern metal in general. All right, so the last band I want to mention for this list is Pink Floyd. Now, in my personal opinion, I think they're the most overrated progressive rock band. If you want to call them prog rock, I think most people do anyways, but yeah, if you were to place them in prog rock, I think they're the most overrated band in the genre. I mean, I do very much prefer bands like Rush, King Crimson, and Genesis, just to name a few, but yeah, Pink Floyd, you know, I have heard their music. You know, obviously the Hole in the Wall album or whatever, or the Wall album, whatever. You know, obviously that's a very successful album and everything, but yeah, I think their music is kind of overrated. Dare I say Pink Floyd is kind of overrated, but they're definitely not bad. I mean, their music just doesn't really grab me that much, but either way, I don't think their music is bad by any means. I mean, there's also no denying the influence that Pink Floyd had on rock music as well. All right, so there you have it. That's a list of some bands that I'm not a fan of, but I do respect at the same time, so feel free to let me know what you think. What are some bands that you respect that you're not really a fan of? So feel free to let me know. So what do you think of this list? Thanks for watching, have a nice day, and take care.